Injuries are piling up. Rashee Rice goes to IR. What happens next? And are they ready to rumble down in the bayou? Coming up next on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back to a Red Friday, a little abbreviated because we got a Monday night ball game, not a Sunday ball game. Welcome in Chiefs Kingdom. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. Place your $5 bet and you earn $200 in bonus bets right now, guaranteed at FanDuel.com. Go there to get started. This is going to be a fun one. A little bit of nerves, a little bit of fun here. We are going to talk about what the Chiefs have to do to the race to the AFC to get back to that Super Bowl. How do they go about it? And where do they sit right now? That's coming up later in the show. We're going to talk about the changes that have to go on across this team, given what has gone on to this point. And we're going to start with the news of the day, Rashee Rice. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, and RGR Football. This is my partner, Chris Clark, over at KC Chiefs Corner. Check out his Substack. Get subbed on all those outlets. We would appreciate it if you guys would check out all of our content because we cover it all in many, many different formats. You can listen to this format, see this format on YouTube every single day, 5 days a week. Like, sub, hit the bell, get over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts for the audio side and get subbed there. If you want that much more, Chris is running our text line at 816-357-8781. All the locos hang out there, and you locos are the reason we do this. You everydayers, we appreciate you. Let's get into it here. Tough day. Just as we've been talking about Rashee Rice and like the process of finding out what the injury actually is, a lot of optimism this week. Patrick Mahomes said something. Andy Reid said something. A little bit about when we get him back. Always knew he was going to miss some time, especially this first game. But now he goes to IR. It's a minimum of 4. They get a chance to figure out what's going on and start the rehab process. I'm not really shocked, but I was hopeful they would wait just a little bit longer, given that they seem pretty apt to carry an open slot or two. This, I won't say is a surprise, but it does actually give some breathing room to this player and this recovery that they're going to have to go through. Did it surprise you?
I'm a little surprised at the timing. I figured that they were going to wait till Monday, but maybe there's some rules that we don't know about specifically playing on Monday night that would make it a situation where they would have to do it now. To me, it made more sense for them to wait because if you're going to find out on Monday what his prognosis is, although the reality is he's likely out through November at the very least anyway. So I guess in reality, it probably really doesn't matter. But this to me was a little surprising today. Although it is Friday, they kind of like to tend to, do a news there. Sorry, I guess it's Thursday, but they'd like to do news dumps on Thursdays and Fridays. So not shocking. We did know he wasn't going to be playing this weekend, and it's not shocking to me that they've put him out for the next 4 weeks, which also means he cannot play until the Broncos game, which if he's able to play in the Broncos game would be fantastic and amazing. And I don't think anybody would have ever thought that after Sunday. So to me, it's all a blessing and it's all positive news. It's still possible he ends up out for the season. But there was reports that he was in the locker room walking almost like normal in a full leg sleeve. So that's something to consider. And it sounds like he's going to get a lot more tests done on Monday once more of the swelling goes down.
Yeah, and you hope that that's the only reason. Swelling sometimes takes a bit to fall off, but the fact is injuries are piling up. Now your top 2 wide receiver options for the season are both out for the time being, certainly for the month of October. And then what happens next? That's trying to avoid the injury bug. At this point, we've already had discussions earlier in the week about trade possibilities, those kind of things. October is where they have to get some of this done. Should they sustain any more injuries, I think that's going to be a necessity, a have to, and you don't have time to wait around. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that they can keep the rest of the wide receiver core healthy. And they're starting to get some guys back at other positions. Clyde Edwards-Helaire activated his window today. He's got 21 days to get back on the roster as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bad deal. You say that you have to keep everybody else healthy, and Hardman is limited in practice today with a knee injury. That's definitely not something that you want to hear at this point. Kareem Hunt was limited today with the knee injury, shoulder injury. So that's something you're not looking forward to as well. This offense is really banged up, and they need to get that figured out going forward. I agree with you. They're going to have to figure something out, and it's more than likely going to have to be in October. Although the trade deadline, I don't believe is until November 5th, which is obviously over a month away. So they have some time. There are a lot of different things that they're going to need to get figured out between now and then. And wide receiver is definitely not a position that I was thinking that they were going to have to be trading for this season. But obviously, injuries have a way of changing how that goes. So hopefully they can get it figured out. And you look at what the wide receiver core is going to have to do. You have to get more from Xavier Worthy. He has to be able to do more than just the go routes. That's what his focus has been for the most part. And I get it because of the speed. You want to open up things deep. But he did show the ability to win on crossing routes. And I think that could be a big staple of this offense over the next couple of weeks. Use him in that sense and then really try to get Juju going. The one thing that I think you look at how this played out last week against the Chargers, I guarantee you they had Rashee Rice as a big part of their game plan. And then all of a sudden he's gone, and it takes out your entire game plan for the week. In that situation, you have to be ready, and you're going to have to change things up. But now they actually have an entire week to game plan for using Juju more, maybe getting Watson involved more. Maybe you get some of the tight ends involved more. They do have different guys that they could bring up, and they just brought Jody Fortson back last week. So I wonder if they maybe instead of going with a wide receiver, they go look at maybe another tight end for this game.
I think that's certainly a possibility. We're going to talk about all those options in the next segment. For now, on the injuries, getting Clyde back in what is a beat-up running back room, I think adds to the mix. Obviously, with Hunt having a good first day out, but obviously the shoulder is a nagging injury. We've seen him have shoulder issues in the past as well, so you got to be careful there. Putting it together so that you have a full room is really what the goal is here. By getting one player back, especially if a couple of them are banged up, and obviously need a little bit of work with Carson Steele there to work on the fumble issue. Does it feel like that running back room is able to take up some of the slack that maybe you have to search your way through in the wide receiver room?
You would hope so. The big question is Clyde ready to go? It sounds like he's running with the scout team right now. So we'll see whether or not he's going to be somebody that they can activate. The thing is looking at this game, the question becomes with Kareem Hunt being injured as well and being limited with a shoulder injury, you have to wonder, is Carson Steele going to be that guy running back like you kind of mentioned? And if he is, then you're in a situation where it's completely different than what you were expecting to go into this game. Because I would think that, maybe one of the things you could do is you can maybe use Clyde in more of a receiver type role, at least this week to get through it. If it wasn't a situation where Kareem Hunt was down, now you have a situation where Clyde might have to be one of those main running backs, because I still don't think that they're going to be using Samaje Perine in most of those situations.
I think that's absolutely fair. So what are they going to do in the situations? We're going to play in or out coming up next on what the changes need to be right after this. Welcome back, our friends at Prize Picks. This is the fun, and I think the most fun way to play what you want to get into. Make your daily fantasy sports accessible to everyone. Keeps it super simple. They give you a line, and all you pick is more or less for at least two players in a given week, with a chance to win up to 100 times your cash right now. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can win exactly 100 times your money with at least for as little as 4 picks, and you can go even beyond that. You can sign up today, get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't need to win to receive. You just need to play. That's a $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. If you think Mahomes is going to go over 233 this week or throw 6 touchdowns next week, you can get in those more or lesses and pick your players on your team that you want to see every time. That's what I like to do. I try to keep it to our Chiefs picks week to week. Kels, Mahomes. Now we'll see with Hunt. A lot going on there. Download the app today and use our code LOCKEDONNFL. You get $50 instantly after you play for a $5 lineup. Super, super simple. Just get Locked On NFL into your signup so you can use that code to get the offer. This is where you want to get it. Get over to Prize Picks. Run your game with them. This is always a fun segment. We try to mix it up on how we do this. So this is going to be in or out on what changes do you make? How do you affect what has to happen next? So I think I have an idea of where you're going to go. So I'm going to keep it simple. They have run the ball quite a bit more than we're used to seeing them, especially early in a season. Now they have this plethora of running backs. We'll see just when Clyde's able to go. I don't know if he'll be activated before this Monday night game. Kind of doubt it, but that's okay. But you still have a viable 3-person committee, and you have a couple of other things. So in or out, do they run more this week in terms of called carries, or do they run less?
I think it's going to depend on who they have available. If Kareem's out, I think that they're going to run less, and they may not know until Monday whether or not Kareem is going to play. That's the big question when you go into this week. I'm going to go less if he plays. I'm going to go more. I'm going to go more if he plays. I'm going to go less if he doesn't, because I don't think that they want to put that kind of load on Carson Steele, and I don't think they want to rush Clyde back even if he's able to go. So in my mind, I think that they're going to try to pass more. Which would make sense to some regard because you still have Patrick Mahomes. He's still the best player in the league. You're just going to have to change your passing attack and what they're going to do and how they're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. More bodies that are able should lead to more carries.
Yep. So in or out, do you think that they're able to get pressure on Derek Carr in this game? Because I think that's one of the things. Without blitzing, I think that's a huge play in this game.
I think they will, although I don't think it's going to come from the standard spot. Talise Fuaga is having a little bit of trouble. He also missed or was limited in practice as well. Been somebody that's jumped in that line. I really think is part of the reason they're propelled farther than we thought the Saints might be. That's a matchup that you're going to have to move around, in my opinion, to try to do that without blitzing. Because Derek Carr knows the blitz and knows Spag systems. I think he anticipates, as an opponent quarterback, one of the better quarterbacks you're going to see all season long. So I do think that you have to do it by winning your one-on-ones. And if you're going to send somebody, it's going to have to come from the linebacker group. So I am going to take they are going to get pressure on him without blitzing DBs.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that that's exactly what they have to do. Carr, I think, has been blitzed 42% of the time this year so far, or close to 42%. He's been very successful when he's been blitzed. So that's something that you're going to have to take into account. Is he's been making teams pay for the most part, but Spags knows Carr, and that's one of the big things going into this game that I think could really play a huge key.
That's tough about knowing each other that well, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Makes it tough. Okay, in or out. Can you give the Kelsey treatment that Rashee Rice has been getting, meaning focused targets, being a primary target for Mahomes in the game plan? Can you give that treatment to Xavier Worthy in week 5? Is he ready, in or out?
I'm going out. I think he can be ready in a couple of weeks. I just don't think he's there yet. And mainly it's because you look at what they've used for him so far. And I don't think that they've probably focused on using him the way he needs to be used in order to have that type of load. We'll see if they change things up this week. But I also think that it's possible that they were looking at further down the line and bringing that out in, further weeks, and maybe like week 11 against Buffalo, really, giving him more and more as the season goes on. So I'm going to go out right now. I don't think he's ready for it. I do think that they're going to have to try to get him more involved. But I don't think that it's going to be the focal point like it's been for Rice. I think you have to change that up and try to get Juju more involved, and maybe Noah Gray involved, and Justin Watson, and get those guys trying to go, so you can get a little bit more output from those guys, and take a little bit off of Xavier Worthy's plate.
Yeah, I like that plan. I would like to see 6, 7 pass catchers be on the tally board by the time this game's over on Monday night.
I'd like to see that in the first half, because I think that's how they get. I think that's how they get their offense going. I think that's how Mahomes is going to be the most functional, is that you get that many people out in space, and let him deliver it to all over the field. And then it becomes really hard to defend. You look at some of the Saints injuries. Willie Gay's probably not playing in this game. That's going to hurt when you start talking about, running backs out of the backfield. So I do think that that's going to be something that the Chiefs should be able to take advantage of. And they showed last week that they can get Kelsey involved when they absolutely need to.
Hopefully that they don't go to that card already, because I think that's a December play that they'll likely need to implement.
Well, I'm worried that they're going to have to implement it a lot earlier than they ever wanted to, because I don't think that in this situation they have much of a choice. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping somebody else can step up and they're able to do a couple of things. If you think about it, all you really need is 2 or 3 plays on a consistent basis. Maybe 2 or 3 plays a quarter or 2 or 3 plays a half really changes the way that this offense goes and how easily it can move the ball.
Yeah, it certainly plays in it. You got another one?
Yeah, in or out, the Chiefs force more turnovers this week than they commit.
So they win the turnover battle? Ooh. It is Carr. I'm gonna go in. And I'm gonna say Jamari Connor gets another one. That's what I'm gonna say.
Not Trey McDuffie. He's not getting his first. Okay, fair enough.
I'll be happy when it happens, but I'm not ready to prognosticate that one.
That's fair. You can always prognosticate he won't get one, and maybe that will work out. We'll see. I tend to agree with you. This is Derek Carr. This is a guy that Spags has played a ton against, and while he's been in Kansas City. So I do think that plays into his favor. And he's going to be, Derek Carr is going to be missing weapons. Taysom Hill doesn't look like he's going to play in this game. Kamara was limited. I think he'll probably end up playing. Olave practiced in full, which was a little surprising. So they're going to have some of their pieces. But as you talked about, their tackle, Fuaga, won't be or could have issues going, and they're going to be without their starting center. So there's definitely going to be some injuries that they're going to have to deal with. And the offense is going to have to deal with, Chris Jones going after and lining up wherever he wants to try to get after Derek Carr. And he's had a ton of experience against Carr and knows how to bring him down.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing about playing a team that maybe isn't your normal flow, but having the pivotal player be somebody that you know so well, it goes a very long way. Now, they're an NFC team. Chiefs have to get through the AFC. How do we think that can happen? Why is it so different than what we imagined? We're going to go through Chiefs versus the AFC coming up next.
Hey there, NFL fans. You can get started right now with a big return with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Takes the life out of your middle there. And so when you have that hunch in the middle of a ball game or in the middle of the day on a packed Sunday with a full slate, you can check the latest stats, check out the live play-by-play, and get that so deep into the game that you can make your decisions and go on the same page to place your bets. Makes life super simple. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. It's over at FanDuel. There's a lot of options there, especially when Patrick's throwing interceptions early or we're running the ball really good. You never know what's going to happen, but if you have a gut feeling, check it out at FanDuel.com.
Now, make sure that you like, sub, hit the bell here on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify and Apple and everywhere else. Check out KC Chiefs Corner. Get Chris's work over there and go over to RGR Football and NFL 33. I'll give you my 6-pack that I just put out last night of NFL factors everybody should be watching, including the front offices. Now, the front offices is what goes into building champions and competitive teams. Teams are there in and out year after year, back and forth. I can't say it surprised me the Chiefs are at the top of the AFC standings at this point. And the playoffs started tomorrow. They'd be the 1 seed and they'd get the bye and the whole 9 yards. There's not a whole lot else that. Are you? Okay.
Yep. With who they played, I'm surprised.
The way I thought it was, right? Yeah, absolutely. That's fair. And that's what I was saying. Like, I think the rest of it has not gone the way that we thought it would.
No.
I had no inclination that Jacksonville would be this bad and could not win a ball game in the first quarter of the season. Cincinnati's barely above them with 1 win. Same with Miami. Now, I don't know what surprises you the most. What's the #1 thing that you did not expect that we're seeing in the AFC right now?
Well, I think the number one thing is probably Cincinnati. I didn't expect the Cincinnati Bengals to be 1-3. I'm not gonna say that I expected them to beat the Chiefs, but I thought that there was a really good chance they could have. And obviously that game was close, so it still could have gone that direction. But being 1-3 is not where I expected them to be. And in all fairness, they were close to being 0-4. They could have lost to Carolina. I mean, that game was a lot closer than I ever would have expected it to be in a guy in Andy Dalton who used to be their quarterback. So I think they're the biggest surprise. I can't say that Miami is a huge surprise because once you lose your starting quarterback, and I'm sorry, Skylar Thompson is not a good enough backup, you're going to have problems. Huntley is probably not a good enough backup. Maybe once he gets a couple of weeks in the system, but it sounds like Tua is going to be back in a couple of weeks. So maybe they can rebound and they could do something, but it doesn't shock me there. I am still surprised about Jacksonville. I do agree with you on that one. And it's funny because Miami's only win was against Jacksonville. And if you go back and watch that game, one of the only reasons Miami won that game is because they did what happened to the Bengals, I think, week 1 or week 2 as well, where they got a ball knocked out as they were getting ready to go into the end zone. And that completely changed the ability for Jacksonville to win that game. And it changed the way that their season has gone and the Dolphins, the way their season has gone. I'm not surprised about Buffalo. I'm a little surprised they got blown out by Baltimore, but I'm not surprised that they're 3 and that they have a winning record. Their quarterback is fantastic, and the thing that I think is going to be their downfall, and we'll see how it goes throughout the rest of the season, is their defense looks horrendous. We'll see if that continues, but if it does, they're going to have problems in the postseason again. They could have problems in October, November, and December because of that defense. So, you look at this AFC overall. Am I surprised Kansas City is at the top of the AFC? Maybe a little bit, mainly just because of who they played the first 4 weeks. I really thought that it was a hard-fought game against Baltimore, it was a hard-fought game against Cincinnati, and you never like playing the Chargers. And I think if the Chargers were healthy, it could have been an even closer game than it ended up being. So, lots of different things that play into it. I'm happy that they are where they are, and if they can find a way to get to 5-0, then I think you were in a situation where even if they lose against the 49ers, the next 3 games you have the Raiders, the Bucks, and the Broncos, and I think you have to feel pretty good about going into that stretch and being able to probably have less than 3 losses at that point.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Pittsburgh is leading the North. I didn't see that coming. I'm a little surprised that there are no other AFC West teams in the playoff hunt right now. Spots 9, 10, and 8, 9, 10 are the other 3 AFC West teams. Nobody else would make the playoffs if they happened at this point today. Now, I do think obviously things change through the season. That's why you play the games, right? But for the most part, I think a lot of teams are hanging on by threads. I don't believe in the Jets. I don't believe in Aaron Rodgers. We'll see if he gets himself an old teammate to be a new teammate, and maybe that helps him out. And there's a lot of rumor going on around that trade. But
yeah, the crazy thing about the Jets is I don't know what they're going to do to get better. I mean, they can go get Devontae Adams, and maybe that'll help, but you can't score more than 9 points against the Broncos. And don't get me wrong, I know the Broncos have a very good defense. I get that. But an Aaron Rodgers-led team with what should be a superstar wide receiver in Wilson should be able to do better than he did. And that doesn't even take into account Breece Hall or Alan Lazard, who I'm not saying is a superstar, but he should be a good enough veteran wide receiver and has enough experience with Rodgers that you would think that would be enough to get their offense off the schneid, and it hasn't been. Now, is that going to continue to be the case? We'll see. But, man, I did not expect them. I definitely didn't expect them to get blown out like they did against San Francisco. I expected it to be a better game than it was. And then to lose to Denver the way they did, that just has you wonder, can they do something? And to think Rodgers gave up all this money that he could have been making to have a chance to go win with the Jets, and right now it doesn't look like he's going to.
No, it certainly doesn't. Another thing that just I'm glad to see Josh Downs make an emergence. I never thought it'd be with Joe Flacco, of all people, who did beat the Pittsburgh Steelers to give them their 1 loss. So the Colts are in the mix right behind the Texans, but it looks like right now to me, it's going to come down in the eventualities. I don't see the Texans really fading off. I think their game is their game, and they're pretty solid. Right now, they're able to beat everyone else. They might be the best contender against the Chiefs for this AFC Championship. How do you see it, and do you think it's early enough to tell?
I don't think it's early enough to tell. I disagree to an extent because I still think Buffalo's the team to beat outside of Kansas City in the AFC. The Texans can be great, and we'll have a pretty good idea of who is who this week when the Texans face off against the Bills. Stephon Diggs faces off against his former team, so that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and we'll have a pretty good idea of what they have. But the Texans lost to the Vikings just has me kind of stumped. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know the Vikings defense is fantastic, but to do what they did to Houston, I wasn't expecting that, especially considering, who Houston has as their wide receivers, and they couldn't do anything.
Yeah. I think the Vikings are probably the Cinderella story. Luckily, they're the NFC. But for this AFC picture, I feel good about where the Chiefs are.
Oh.
And right now, week 5 will obviously go into changing some of that.
I don't know if they're the Cinderella story or not. We'll see. I'm still not sold on Sam Darnold. He's been playing very good football. Can he do it the entire season is the big question. And I know we're talking AFC, but I think the Cinderella story right now is probably the Commanders. Jaden Daniels has looked fantastic, and that could be a problem if he continues playing as well as he had.
Yeah, that's probably fair. But yeah, in the AFC, I don't think that's coming into play yet. We'll see who gets to play the AFC.
Yep.
Right now, folks, what do you think? Where are the Chiefs sitting in terms of fighting with this AFC? Who scares you? Who doesn't? Who do you think is going to fall apart, and who might make a late season run here? I know it's early to call it late since we're only a quarter of the way through the year, but it's starting to take shape. That's the way that it goes. Leave your comments down below on YouTube. Make sure that you like, sub, and follow us here. Thanks for spending your Friday with us. Now, game preview we will have for you. The Monday show will be up Sunday night late so that we get you ready for Monday Night Football, and we will be live following that ball game. Go check out Casey Chiefs Corner. Get to NFL 33, who I did just talk about, Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers, in my latest piece. So check that out. And get over to RGR Football as well. I hope you guys have a great weekend. You get ready for Monday Night Football. We'll have our preview ready for you when you're ready to watch. So have a great one. We'll catch you next time.